Okay, let's continue with the respiratory system. So the functions. We obviously need the respiratory system in order to breathe. That process is called respiration. It's responsible for the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide. So it works in conjunction with the cardiovascular system. The respiratory system allows us to make sounds. It gives us our voice. And it's also part of our body's defense against foreign material. So it helps out with our immune system. Now, the structures, the major structures. We're going to be dividing these into upper respiratory and lower respiratory. So the upper respiratory, the nose, the throat, the voice box, the nose, the pharynx, the larynx, the nose, the pharynx, the larynx. Now, you're going to need to know the three different parts of the throat. You're going to need to know the three different parts of the throat. So let's start with the nose first. So air enters the nose or mouth. Hopefully, if you can, breathe through your nose. It's better for the body. Now some people say they can only breathe through their mouths, but try to breathe through your nose if you can. And so the air enters the nose or the mouth during inspiration, which is inhalation. The external portion of the nose is cartilage and bone covered with skin. So the nostrils, also called the external nares or nares, either of those two pronunciations is acceptable, is divided into two halves by the nasal septum. So the septum is the wall that divides. Now, if you can breathe in through your nose, it's easier for the air to be warm to body temperature. You breathe in through your mouth, it will also be warm to body temperature eventually, but it's faster if it goes through the nose. And so the paranasal sinuses and the respiratory mucosa warm up that air. So you might have been out on a cold, cold day, and you can actually feel the cold being brought into your lungs on that cold, chilly day. Now cilia is hair. We've seen that word before. We've seen cilia in the integumentary system chapter. So we have hair, the little cilia all over the body. So in this chapter, we've got it in the nose, in the nasal epithelium. It filters out foreign bodies, makes the mucus move from the lower respiratory tract up to the pharynx. So it kind of sweeps out the mucus. So imagine you've got these teeny, teeny, fine little hair-like structures in your respiratory tract, and that's moving mucus up from the lower regions. So cilia, is that word singular or is it plural? So cilia is plural. So cilium, cilia, bacterium, bacteria. Now, the nose contains the olfactory receptors, that is our sense of smell. So the sensors for that, the receptors. The palate, is that hard plate, that partition. Sinuses are air pockets in the skull. In this chapter, talking about the skull. Helps us with the sound production. And many of you may suffer from sinusitis. Every time the weather takes a bad turn, maybe they get infected, inflammation, and so you suffer from sinusitis. And if you've ever had a sinus headache, you know it when you bend over or sideways. So you feel that pressure. Now, some did you knows. These are interesting little facts, but I'm not going to be on the test, but they help give you an appreciation for the respiratory system. So the mucosal layer secretes about 1/2 cup of mucus daily. And the entire respiratory tract is lined with that cilia and mucosa. Now, mucus, the noun, mucus, the adjective. So watch out for that. Mucus is the noun, Mucus is the adjective. So as pronunciation goes, there's no difference in how you say it. But one's a noun, one's an adjective. The pharynx is the throat, and that organ is used by both the digestive and the respiratory systems. So it's the passageway for both air and food. And so it filters air as it passes into the body. Now, you must know the three parts of the pharynx, and you need to know which is most superior and which is most inferior. And you need to be able to spell these three, as I guarantee you this is going to be on the test. And final exam, I'm quite sure. So, nasopharynx, oropharynx, laryngopharynx. So, nasopharynx. Would you think the nasopharynx is closer to the nose or closer to the mouth? Would you think the oropharynx is closer to the nose or closer to the mouth? The laryngopharynx, where do you think that's at? So, nasopharynx is the most superior. It's got the pharyngeal toxins or pharyngeal tonsils, your adenoids. And so it's right back behind the nose, so nasopharynx. The oropharynx is the part of the throat back by the mouth. And so it's got the palatine tonsils, which we just call tonsils. So adenoids are the pharyngeal or pharyngeal tonsils. Palatine tonsils, back by the palate, are just tonsils. And also part of the immune system. And laryngopharynx or hypopharynx is right there by the voice box. And so this is where the respiratory tract divides between the esophagus and the voice box. So nasopharynx, oropharynx, laryngo or laryngopharynx. So the larynx is the passageway to the trachea. It's the voice box. It's the area where sounds are made. So the thickness, the size of the vocal cords determines the pitch. So if someone has short, thin vocal cords, they've got a high pitch. If they've got thick and long vocal cords, they'll be a low pitch. So we're talking basses and altos versus tenors and sopranos. Glottis is the mouth. It's the opening to the voice box. It's the area or space between those vocal cords. Epiglottis, literally over the glottis. It's that movable flap of cartilage that covers the voice box when we're eating. But again, you know, sometimes we try to eat and talk at the same time, and sometimes we aspirate food. It gets sucked into the lungs because the epiglottis did not get a chance to close. So, so the larynx is supported by cartilage. That includes the Adam's apple. Now, choking. Sometimes somebody will swallow and inhale at the same time. And so the food gets into the voice box and someone's choking. Again, you've all heard of the Heimlich maneuver, which has saved many people from choking to death. But again, the rule of thumb is, if someone seems to be choking, ask them, do they need your help? Ask them, do they need your help? So if they can cough, if they can make some noises, then you're probably best to leave them alone and give them a chance to get it out. If there's nothing coming out, then you may need to do the Heimlich. Because again, you can do more harm than good sometimes. And sometimes the Heimlich is not enough. You might actually have to put your fingers in that person. But again, check with your local Red Cross for first aid classes to find out what the current school of thought is on performing the Heimlich maneuver. But again, don't pat somebody on the back. Do not do that. I don't think that's ever going to change. You can make the matters worse. So don't pat them on the back. Ask them, do they need your help?